Evening, folks, and welcome to the 2026 Wake County Libertarian Party Convention. My name is Brad Hessel. I am your chair since April, and I want to start out first by thanking everyone that's here and many people that are not here who have donated time, energy, money. We're in pretty good shape, and it's thanks to all those folks. In particular, I want to call out my predecessors, Travis Grew, David Ulmer, Joy Elliott. Those folks were chairs before me, and this has been a process. To get to where we are has been a long process, 10 plus years, and those folks really laid the groundwork. I'm just basically benefiting from all the work that was done before me. So thanks to those folks as well as all the others who've contributed. We started really seriously running candidates in 2016, about 10 years ago. One of the first candidates that I recruited was David Ulmer, who ran for his House district, which happens to be my House district also, since we live like about a 5-minute walk apart from each other. And then he went on to become chair of the party. Oh, I forgot Brian Lewis was also chair of the party for a while. Then in 2019, we began getting very focused on local elections for the first time, which is really kind of what any county party really should do. We focused on Raleigh in particular, and while it was not feasible for us to run our own candidates and win those elections, what we were able to do was to work with candidates who had at least one or two really solid libertarian positions. In particular, the city council was in effect there were horrible. They were like anti-private property, basically. And there were a slate of candidates that were running that were opposed to those who were very pro-private property. So we informally worked with that group of people. And that, I think, started the process of Wake LP becoming, well, on the map, basically, politically here in Wake County. And we've continued to work through that in the ensuing years, running more and more candidates. 2025 was really a breakthrough year for us, for Wake LP. Actually, it was 2024, 2025, and I can't take any credit for 2024. We had 324,000 votes for Libertarian candidates in Wake County in 2024. That's a total of all the votes for all the candidates. That doesn't mean 324,000 people voted for us. Obviously, there were a lot of people who voted for multiple Libertarian candidates, but we only have like 5,500 registered Libertarians in Wake County, and half of them never vote. So there were an awful lot of those 324,000 votes, probably about 95% of them that came from Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated independents who were fed up with the two parties. If you go back to 2012 or thereabouts, most people in Wake County had no idea that a Libertarian Party even existed in Wake County. That wasn't the case in 2024. We also had 86,000 votes for our North Carolina General Assembly candidates in 2024. Both those numbers are and so 324,000 votes is not a huge amount, but it's enough to potentially be influential in close elections. We don't have a lot of those in Wake County at the state level, but we have a few. There's 2 congressional districts, 1 Senate district, which are competitive in Wake County of the 19 that we have. And then, of course, there's Soil and Water, which is also potentially competitive. And we competed in all of those in 2024. And that got attention, maybe not from the newspapers so much, but it got attention from the political folks. And in 2025, we have had unprecedented level of access and discussion on policy issues with politicians, with office holders at the county level, at the municipal level, and also at the state level. On the municipal level, for the first time ever, we interacted with all 80 candidates running for municipal office in 2025. We sent them the world's smallest political quiz and asked them to, or actually a link to it, and asked them to fill it out about 30 of them, 31 of them, I think it was, responded. And then we proceeded to interview those folks who had responded. And a lot of them were hopelessly non-libertarian, but a few of them were pretty good on some issues. And we ended up suggesting that, we don't endorse non-libertarian candidates, but we ended up suggesting that people consider 6 of the 31 candidates that we had interviewed. 3 of those people won their elections. So now we have people that we've spoken to in Zebulon and Wendell and Garner and Fuquay-Varina and so on. Every locality, the only municipality that doesn't run odd-year elections anymore is Raleigh. Their elections are running on even-numbered years, where we already are well known. Our footprint and our shadow, if you will, now extends through every municipality in the county. We also were able to have discussions with folks in the North Carolina General Assembly on constitutional carry, on certificate of need, and on instant runoff voting. That there's no way these would have occurred even really 4 years ago, certainly not 10 years ago. Now none of those issues, we have not passed any of those laws as yet. Well, that's not quite true. I guess constitutional carry was actually passed by both the state, both by the House and the Senate, and it was vetoed by Governor Stein and overridden in the Senate. It has not been overridden in the House, but we're hopeful that that will happen in the short session in 2026. Certificate of need also passed the Senate. It has not yet passed the House. It's in some committee, and there's some issue between the Senate and the House. Again, we're hoping that gets resolved in the short session. The certificate of need legislation would actually rescind North Carolina's very restrictive healthcare rationing system, certificate of need, which essentially drives up prices and a lower supply of healthcare services here in North Carolina. With respect to instant runoff voting, that's a tougher sell. Instant runoff voting, aka ranked choice voting. Republicans in the state, at the state level, are very, very comfortable with the status quo. Not surprisingly, a supermajority in the Senate and 1 vote away from a supermajority in the House. They have no incentive to change the system. So they're not going to approve instant runoff voting anytime soon at the state level. But we are working on an approach. We're working very closely with the Forward Party, in particular their vice chair, Lenny Friedman, to put together a needs assessment looking at implementing ranked choice voting or instant runoff voting as an option, not forcing it on anybody, but as an option for one county, namely Wake County, so that municipalities and the county government would have the option of running their elections with ranked choice voting. This requires permission from we're a Dillon Rule state. This requires permission like anything requires permission from the state legislature. But we're hopeful that the state legislature might consider doing that. It's no skin off their nose. None of them would be threatened in any electoral sense by a county running ranked choice voting elections. And it's very helpful for counties because it avoids having to have an actual runoff, which are very expensive, and the counties and towns pay for that, not the state. So from that perspective, it's attractive to the county. And also, it's very helpful in multi-winner elections, which are quite the norm with municipal elections. The way that you adjudicate those elections with instant runoff voting guarantees basically that you have a sufficient number of votes for every candidate, which with the plurality system we have is not the case. So anyway, we're making progress on all 3 of those. And the IRV needs assessment, at this point, we are leveraging the contacts we've made with municipalities to get folks to actually sign on to a needs assessment document. It's 3 pages long that lists all the things that we want them to look at. For example, they'd have to update the software in voting machines, so that's a cost. They'd have to print possibly a longer ballot, so that could be a cost. And maybe more machines, because it does take a little longer for voters to do ranked choice voting, to rank all the candidates as opposed to just filling in an oval for one of them. So the lines would be a little longer if you didn't have more machines and more throughput at the voting centers. So there are costs associated with it. So we want them to look at all those costs and look at the savings that they would generate by not having to do doing regular runoffs, and come up with a real plan for implementing it, and so we can look at the pluses and minuses, and more importantly, the NCGA will have an actual solid report on what the pluses and minuses are. So that's what we're working on now. Also, fundraising. We had a great year fundraising in 2025, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Actually, that's the end of my chair report, and I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the treasurer report. Unfortunately, Sean Haw, our treasurer, is under the weather, but he sent me this note, which I'm going to read. As of yesterday, we had 4,607. Fundraiser has brought in $2,010 so far. Which allows us to promote our candidates and increase our influence in state and local politics. If you aren't a pledger now, I encourage you to sign up for a monthly donation. Even $4 or $5 a month adds up to a cycle, right? It starts with the year after a presidential election, then there's the midterm year that we're coming up to now, that we're in now, actually 2026 is the midterm year, then there's the year before the presidential election, then there's the presidential election. So that's 4 years. We're in the second year now, technically. 2025 was our first year. $13,900 was 64% more than we raised in 2021, which was the last first year of the cycle. So it was a very significant improvement over what we had done in the past. Obviously, we want to keep
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. I guess I'll start with my origin story because that's what they teach us in business speaking. So I'm Matt Laszacs, grew up in a military family, pretty conservative upbringing. I had 2 children very young in life, and as a lot of you guys understand that have raised children, it's very hard to do that. It's even harder to do it on limited means. I saw a need to go to college to better myself. I went to college nights and weekends while working a full-time job and 2-3 different part-time jobs, including the Walmart photo lab, which was actually a lot of fun. That was my favorite part-time job. Got my college degree, and through that experience, here I am now, but through that experience, I came to Liberty. I started out as a conservative. I came to Liberty through lived experience because those challenges that I faced as a young person trying to, raise 2 kids on limited means, it gets really frustrating really quick when the government gets in the way of your life and prevents you from, living your best life. So one of my things that I've recognized throughout the years that's important to me is, I've come from the business world, right? So in many of the jobs that I've had, one of the things that you're asked to do is come in and fix all the broken stuff, right? So you take this job on, and you have these people, and you have these processes, whatever, right? One of the things I noticed pretty early on in that experience is that people aren't broken, systems are broken. And you have a lot of good people toiling in bad systems. So when I come in and I need to, I talk to all the folks, I get to know what their perspectives are, what they're struggling with, what's hard, and you find out really quick that you got a lot of good people working in your organization, but they're working in a bad system. And I think we have a government that is the epitome of that. You got a lot of good people toiling in a very bad system. Another thing that I've learned in my business experience is that if you want to fix things, you can't boil the ocean at once, right? We have to start small. We have to work our way up. So in the business world, we call it a crawl, walk, run approach. You pick 3 things that are important to you. You focus on them, try to get some quick wins, try to get some wind in the sails, push that ship forward. I would also apply that to a philosophy that I share, that a lot of libertarians share, is that we can't be so focused on the destination all the time. There is a world that we all want to get to where liberty is always at the forefront of all of our political decisions. We're a long way from that. In the meantime, there's a lot of little tactical things we have to do that we have to get done that are amenable to the voting population now. So my goal with my crawl, walk, run approach is to find those pieces of low-hanging fruit. Let's pick them off the tree together. Let's get some of those quick wins. Let's get the wind in the sails, and let's push the ship, otherwise known as the Overton window, closer and closer to liberty. And I see it as a years-long generational struggle. However, it's always good to have a plan, right? So my crawl, walk, run plan for Congress is pretty simple. We want to get to the root of the problem. What's the most broken thing right now? Congress is definitely a broken system, right? But what's the most broken? It has abdicated all of its Article 1 powers. Congress has become a passenger. They're a bystander. They're not really involved in any of the meaningful debates that we have for any of the issues that are affecting people in this country right now. Why aren't they? Because they're afraid. Voters have said to Congress, you guys, we don't like you. We like the president. We like the judiciary. We don't like you guys. Fade to the background, please. Get us the president that is going to give us the Supreme Court nominations that are going to allow us to continue to just amass and consolidate power. In every 4 to 6 to whatever number of years, it's going to be the political football going back and forth. So my number 1 goal is to have Congress reassert its Article 1 powers. And we can do that in simple ways. I think first and foremost, got to reclaim administrative oversight. What are these agencies doing? Nobody knows, because you've got a bunch of bureaucrats that are making their own rules and sometimes enforcing them in kangaroo courts. Those have to go. No administrative courts, Article 3 courts only. I think when people understand what an Article 1 court is, they'll get behind us pretty quick. That's something we can build consensus around. Those have to go. It's a big issue right now with the war on drugs. We all know that we want drug prohibition to go away and to just end wholesale. That's the destination. Where are we at right now? How about we get people fentanyl test strips? A lot of people are dying from fentanyl simply because they can't get a test strip, because that's drug paraphernalia, and our federal drug laws prohibit people from testing their dirty drugs that they have to buy from a bad guy from a foreign country or from the street because the drug that they need is illegal. That's a simple one. Let people get test strips. Safe injection sites. These are things that have been done in other countries. They work in other countries. Harm reduction has been proven scientifically to work to help reduce drug overdose rates. So those are simple things that we could do now. I know we all want to get to the destination of ending drug prohibition wholesale. I want to get there too, but those are simple things we can do now. How about a simple one? Can we just pass a frickin' budget? Congress hasn't passed a budget. I mean, they can't pass a budget. Let's just nice and simple. Let's just say, hey, if Congress does nothing else this year, we pass a budget. And then let's take and put it into statute that Congress has to pass a budget every year. If they're going to control our taxes, if they're going to control our spending, then they ought to do what everybody else in the whole frickin' world does. They ought to make a budget. They ought to stick to it. And if they don't, they should be held accountable by the taxpayers. I'd love to get a Swiss debt break. I think that's a run item, not a crawl item. And in terms of our criminal injustice system, it is a criminal injustice. It's a criminally unjust system, actually. There's some simple things we can do there. I think we can end qualified immunity, right? My God, how long have we been dealing with qualified immunity? It's absolutely ridiculous. Can we just end asset forfeiture, please? When people understand what asset forfeiture is, it blows people. They think you're lying. They think you're telling them a fib. It's impossible to imagine a world where people can stop you, take your cash, charge it with a crime, never take it to court, never get your cash back. That is theft. Everybody understands that. It's a very intuitive level. I think that's a simple thing that we can get some wind behind our sails and build some consensus on. Other than that, I hope that people will go and vote for all Libertarian candidates. I will end by saying something that is a core and strong belief of mine, and that is that we have more power than we think we do. We don't have to vote for an R or a D. We vote for individual candidates. Things will change. Please get out and vote. It makes a huge difference, and I hope you'll vote for Libertarians, and I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So, continuing with our federal candidates, we next have our House 4 candidate, Guy Meilleur. I believe this is your 5th run for office, Guy? Who's counting? You ran for U.S. House for us in Wake County a couple of times, and then you moved to Durham and ran for House there, I believe, North Carolina House, if I remember correctly. And then last cycle, in 2024, you ran for U.S. House 4 also. U.S. House 4 is in more than 2 counties. Guy will tell us. But a part of it extrudes into Wake County. I think it's mostly Durham, but there is a as well. So, Guy, if you want to talk a little bit about your campaign. So she her victory.
much as you can when it's dominated by one party. And I hope to see Congress change on the federal level, because we have as soon as someone gets 51%, then it turns into a stalemate, and the 49%ers don't have much to do. I like to see people talk with each other more. I hate to see the moderates and the civil people creep out of the retire early out of the legislature, and I like to encourage more conversation, more negotiation, more of legislating what legislating used to be, and I'd like to see a lot more of that on the federal level. Why am I running? I would like to think that I will triumph, and I appreciate any and all help in doing so. If, however, I don't triumph, I'll still consider it a success if I encourage people to talk to each other about the issues instead of arguing about the other guy's always wrong, and red and blue, and that kind of crazy stuff that doesn't lead to functional government. On the national side, I'd like to see states being respected. I'd like to see the National Guard especially be respected. Who remembers the Defend the Guard policy position from the last go around? I think we have to respect our National Guard and not put them into hostile situations like we're seeing them put into now with the other paramilitary groups, otherwise known as ICE. On the international level, I'd certainly like to see the United States get out of foreign entanglements and stop supporting foreign wars as we are now. I think the issue in Gaza is big in District 4 because we have a pretty strong county commissioner running against the incumbent, a Muslim woman running against a black woman. And Gaza was a big deal a couple of years ago, and now we're kind of forgetting it. But there's no such thing as a peace accord there now. In reality, there may be a name to give someone credit for being a peacemaker, but I've read where I think over 100 children have been bombed to death since the peace ceasefire agreement was signed. So I think that we need to be smarter about our international entanglements. I read in the Libertarian platform where we're supposed to be able to help people who are resisting tyranny, and I would certainly put the people in Gaza in that category, and also the people in Ukraine. I know, dirty word, let's not support Ukraine, but they are getting bombarded every night. And I spent a week in Ukraine. I spent a week in Russia. These are different countries. These are all good people, and there's no reason why we should be condoning or enabling anybody to bomb innocent people. And that's happening too much in the world. And I'd like to see the U.S. Congress be strong, reassert its war-making authority, and take it and other dictatorial power from the chief executive, and make America function again. So I'm going to start with the MAFA movement, and I invite you to join me. I don't know if I ran too long, Brad, but there you go.
Thank you, Guy. So I'm going to change things up a little bit here because we only had 2 of our 4 scheduled federal candidates. I had originally thought we would do the state candidates at the end, but we might as well just run through them now and then do our boring business. So that means that I want to talk a little bit about the 84,000 votes. The handout that you got, there's a chart. What this shows you are the number of votes that we received for our North Carolina General Assembly candidates from 2000 all the way up to 2024. And as you can see, 2024 was way above anything we'd ever done before 2024. Of course, in part, it's a function of how many candidates we ran, and it's also a function of whether it's a presidential year or a midterm year. We get many, many more votes. Everybody gets many, many more votes in the presidential year because the turnout is higher. So that we had some tailwinds in 2024. We are not going to get 86,000 votes in 2026, no matter what we do. So there's that. But you can definitely see why it is that suddenly, politicians are now really enthusiastic about talking to us. 2026, we have 3 candidates running for state senate and 4 candidates running for state house. And we're going to start with Jonathan David Meilleur. He is a rookie. He has not run for office before, but he's been thinking about running for quite a while and has some very considered thoughts about how to approach it. So, Jonathan, hold the microphone close to your mouth, and please try to take 3 minutes or less.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan D. Meilleur. I was radicalized early. My grandmother told me that one of my relatives signed the Constitution, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So I looked it up, and it turns out he didn't sign the Constitution. He didn't sign the Constitution because there wasn't a Bill of Rights. And his name is George Mason. Some of you might have heard of him. There's a university in Virginia named after him. He was thought by his contemporaries to be the father of the Bill of Rights. And so since that time, I have been pretty much anti-authoritarian as it comes. I really think that the power should be with the people and not with the government. And the government has shown that it can abuse its power. Every time we give them a little bit more. And so I want to return the power to the people. The 10th Amendment of the Constitution says that any rights that aren't in the Constitution go to either the state or the people. And the state seems to grab up as many of those rights as they can. And I'm hoping that we can return some of them to the people. I believe in choice in a lot of things. I think adults should be able to make their own choices as far as things like cannabis go. I think that parents should be able to make their own choices as far as what schools their kids go to. And I think we should have a lot more choice in where all this money we're spending goes to. Because as soon as we give them a dime, they've spent it and 3 more cents at least. Constantly borrowing money to pay for things that none of us asked for. So I think it's time that we return some of the power to the people. I want to see ranked choice voting. I want to see us have more choices on the ballot, and I want to see a better North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I'm now speaking to you not as the chair, but as Brad Hessel, North Carolina 18. This will be my 4th run at this particular office. Actually, technically, it was Senate 15 the first time I ran for it, but it's the same basic territory, and they gerrymandered and redistricted so many times in the last decade. Both myself and the incumbent, who I ran against twice in 2016 and in 2018, were moved from 15 to 18. He was planning to make that his last run, so he had some yard signs that still were from his last campaign, and he put the new ones out that said Senate 18 and the old ones that said Senate 15 out, so he had both flavors out in that 2018 campaign. So one of my motivations in running, I grew up, I'm a baby boomer, and when I grew up, politics were friendlier, and politics stopped at the water's edge, all those cliches. They really were, I think, legislators who were more interested in addressing issues as opposed to basically performative tweets insulting their opponents and whatever is what we have now. And I appreciate, as a student of history, that in the United States' history, the period that I grew up in was uncommonly friendly. That, you know, we had, well, you know, prior to the war between the states, there were guys hitting each other over the head with canes in the Congress, right? And of course, then there was a war between the states. So that's a lot worse than we're at now. And even if you look at the early 19th century, or the early 20th century, rather, there were a lot of political, well, newspapers, basically. Many newspapers are owned by political parties. So you still had that, you had that very much similar to what we have now with this siloed information. You weren't getting objective information, you were getting information filtered through a particular point of view. Most people were. Having said that, though, I don't like it. and I'm definitely motivated to do what I can to change that. I'm going to be running once again on some electoral reform so that I think would help us. One of them is instant runoff voting. Another one, of course, is ending political gerrymandering. That's kind of a pipe dream, but I think it's important to raise that as an issue. And I also think fairness for independent voters. In North Carolina, independent voters, while they can vote in any primary, which is a plus over many other states, there's actually impediments in the way of them running for office, unless it's a nonpartisan office. If you want to run, if you're an independent and you want to run for state senate like me, you can't, unless you also get a petition signed by hundreds, maybe thousands, depends on the office, of voters. They won't take your check at the State Board of Elections or the County Board of Elections until you provide them with a petition. That's not a requirement that applies to Libertarians or Democrats or Republicans or Green Party people. Why do we have this extra requirement for independents? We've had many elections for the U.S. House since 2000. We had like 16. Let's see, I think it was 12 House seats, and now we have 14. Now it's been upped a couple times. Anyway, there was not so that's 2 candidates times whatever, 13 or 14 times however many years that is, about 10 cycles between the turn of the century and 2020. Not a single independent ran for Congress because the impediments were so high. We finally had one in 2024, the first one since in this century that qualified to run in November. That's not fair. So I'd like to change that too. I have a plan to attack this, a tactical plan to attack this, which is I am going to challenge my opponents, and I don't know who they are yet. I know the Democratic opponent, he doesn't have any opposition. The Republican actually has, there's going to be a primary in March. Once that's over, I'm going to challenge my opponents to agree to set up a caucus in the North Carolina General Assembly modeled on the Problem Solvers Caucus in the U.S. Congress. I was vaguely aware of those guys. I didn't realize how long. They've been going for like 10 years. There's like 50 members of the Problem Solvers Caucus. They have had several successes, not so many in the last year because it's been a tough year for people that are really interested in solving problems. But they did cause they forced the House vote on releasing the Epstein files. So, and they forced the House vote on the extension of the Obamacare subsidies too. Many Republicans voted for that, even though they don't actually want that to happen. They prefer a better a solution for like using healthcare funds or whatever. But they voted for it because it basically pushed the ball to the Senate, and they're hoping that a compromise will come out of the Senate that will be more amenable. So the Problem Solvers Caucus was instrumental in those actions. There's 2 members of the North Carolina delegation, by the way, that are members of that, of the Problem Solvers Caucus. One of them is Don Davis, who's a Democrat in District 1, and the other is Chuck Edwards. I believe he's in District 11. He's a Republican. So anyway, I'm going to challenge my opponents to agree to pledge to work to get a Problem Solvers Caucus in the North Carolina General Assembly, and hopefully they'll agree. So I mentioned I've run in this for this office twice before. It's one of the 3 competitive districts in Wake County, so I won't be getting a lot of votes because all the oxygen will be sucked up and all the money will be spent by the Democrats and Republicans trying to get this one Senate seat that's up for grabs. However, 2 of the 3 times that I ran, I got more votes than the difference between my opponents, meaning that the Libertarian vote potentially decided the election. Last time, the difference between the 2 of my major party opponents was 128 votes. I got 4,000 votes. So there's no question that I had enough votes to change the outcome. Whether I did or not, you know, is subject to debate. But that would be my objective in this race, is to do that again. Because again, that helps when you want to talk to a politician about policy. If you have the potential of affecting an election, they're more likely to listen to you. So anyway, that's enough about me. Let's move on to our House candidates. And the first of those is Matthew Corden, who is a sophomore candidate. He's running for the same office he ran for in 2024, in 2026, which is namely House 11. Matthew, you want to give us a couple minutes about where you're at?
Thank you very much, Brad. I have notes prepared. Okay, so I was told this would be a 1-minute speech, so it's going to be short, and then I'll 2 minutes. And then I'll say a few extra things afterwards. Anyhow, salutations, ladies and gentlemen. In my boyhood, I grew up in Wake County, and I returned here in Cary after the pandemic ended. Participation in school clubs inspired me to care about our North Carolina. A person is not born extraordinary, but can choose to honor the gift of life. In 2024, I saw that potential in running for office as a Libertarian lawmaker. I gave the pursuit a serious effort, not because I love power, but because power belongs to individuals as protected by justice. I found out the hard way that the only thing strangers cared about was the letter next to my name on the ballot sheet. Thus, I pledged this year to not be a stranger, but instead a brave visitor at their doors. In addition, I have updated my messaging to reflect this new day dawning, and I pledged to start my fundraising a whole lot earlier. Thank you for your attention, and please, if you're religious, please say a prayer for the safety of us candidates. Going door to door to possibly 1,000 doors could be a little bit scary. So that was my speech, but since I have a little extra time, I'd tell you a little bit about my platform this time. So last time I had 5 items that I categorized my platform as. This time I'm exchanging one of them out and putting something in. That's what I mean when I say updating my messaging. I feel like it was a big moment for education freedom back in around 2023, but unfortunately that's not really an issue that people care about as voters, although it's still near and dear to my heart. So instead, this time around I'll be running on a different plank, which is what I call opportunity infrastructure. Personally, I think it's a clever name because it can mean a lot of things at once. I think opportunity is at the core of capitalism, that we have an equality of opportunity, but in that way we get to work for the differences, we earn those. But infrastructure too is important as well. Doing so to show people that I'm personally not a radical by my own definition, and I would like for people to see that libertarians can be pretty ordinary, pretty much like them, and that in that way that we can be approachable. And so I'm hoping that that will be a good thing for our outreach, because ultimately it's not about how many votes I get, but to spread the party to other people. And in that way I care quite a bit about registration, and I encourage all of you to care about that as well. In an age where everybody is moving towards being unaffiliated, I think it's very important that we should make the case for why that we have a sort of pride in being libertarians, that we see it as a way of having a path in front of us. It makes philosophy clear, it gives us hope, and it's something to talk about. I think all of that is quite wonderful, and we should want to spread that. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Ed George, House 34. Now, Ed is also a sophomore candidate, although Wake LP have had our eye on him for quite a long time. He had an employment situation that kept him from running for a few cycles, but he had a pretty successful campaign last year. He was in a 1v1, which was a big plus, and is also going to be in a 1v1 this year. And you saw that 84,000, 86,000 votes was way above what we'd ever gotten before. You won't be surprised to learn that there were some new records set on individual level too. Ed broke the all-time record for the most number of votes for a House seat and broke the all-time record for the highest percentage of votes for a Libertarian candidate for a House seat. Unfortunately for him, two other candidates also broke the records and had even higher results than he did. I think it was Mike Nelson in '66 who ended up with the most votes. But in any event, it was a very successful campaign, and he's back again. So, Ed, you want to tell us a little bit about your 2026 campaign?
Thanks, Brad. For those that don't know me. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Ed George, and I'm running for House 34, which I've done once before, as was discussed by Brad. I grew up in West Virginia, very poor kid in Appalachia with a large family, and we didn't get any help from the government, even though by today's standards, everyone would say we probably would by today's measurements. And we didn't want any help from the government. And the families in the area where I grew up that did get help from the government didn't feel good about it and did their best to get out of that situation. Much unlike today, where it seems like the opportunity to get something from the government is the more popular approach. I grew up learning to live by principles and making decisions based on principles. We cannot decide in every situation today how we're going to perform in the future. We need to have leaders, and we need to have elected leaders, elected leaders, that we can anticipate how they may act based on the principles that they live by and the principles that they discuss, not based on some particular topic that we heard them talk about at one time or another. So growing up with those principles, and having almost no money, I put myself through college. I received a degree in mechanical engineering, and over many years of hard work, I've gotten to the position today where I run my own consulting business, and I manage some of the largest construction projects that this area has ever seen. And I, in addition now, have launched another business that is a leadership training program for young professionals, primarily in my industry that I work in consulting. So back to the principles and for policies and decisions. My favorite person in history is Thomas Jefferson, without a doubt. And he's given credit for saying two things that I've heard that mean a lot to me. One is that he said, it doesn't matter whether my neighbor has one God or many gods, as long as he takes no money from my pocket nor breaks my leg, his affairs are his own. And I think that is a fantastic quote. The other one is, the purpose of government is to prevent men from harming one another. And I believe if we approach government decisions with those two things in mind, we don't need many other principles to live by, as long as we're honest and have integrity and have some basic human principles we all ought to have. So if I'm elected office, I will look at issues from that perspective. Is this issue something that I should be involved with? Is somebody's neighbor breaking their leg or taking their money? Okay. Is a significant driver. And is anyone being harmed? So with those in mind, the 3 topics that I wanted to try to focus on are similar to last time, and that is certificates of need. I have a personal experience in the health system, unfortunately, where I got hit with a bill for about $6,000 simply to go to a hospital and get some tests run when I had some chest pain. I couldn't believe how incredibly expensive it was because of the tests they had to run and, of course, the limited amount of choices I had places to go to get those tests. Another is school choice. I really believe in a woman's right to choose. I like that phrase. I wouldn't want to see anybody have to be in a situation where they have to get an abortion, but I want that person to be able to make that choice. But I think that it's very fair, if we're going to let a woman choose whether or not she's going to have a child, we certainly ought to be willing to let her choose where her child goes to school. I can't understand the inconsistency there of people who can think one and not the other, unless, of course, there's a moral objection to the abortion principle. The other is, of course, ranked choice voting. I saw the presentation on ranked choice voting a couple of months ago here, and it was fantastic. It really sold me on it. I thought it was a great idea, and I'd like to see us do that. So with all that said, one of the other motivators for me running for office is that my biggest fear as a small business person, my biggest fear in life in Raleigh, is that the government is going to mess with me. I spend too much money and too much time keeping track of everything that we spend a dollar on, and every decision we make, whether or not it is in line with the IRS regulations of how I spend the money I earned. And I think there's a lot of room to try to get the government out of our lives and get the government to quit telling us how to live and how to run a business. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to try to practice my talk, and I look forward to practicing it more in the future.
Thanks, Ed.
Next, we have another rookie candidate, Wayne Cockrell. I'm not sure, Wayne, have you ever run for office before as possibly in another party? Never. Okay, so this is definitely a rookie. He's running in House 39, and he also has a benefit and value that, as a rookie, he may not appreciate how great this is, running in a 1v1 as well. He only has one opponent. So, Wayne.
All right, I'm Wayne Cockrell, running for House 39. I have lived most of my adult life either in South Carolina or North Carolina. I came here about 20 years ago. At one time, I was part of a small business where we traveled all over the Carolinas. So I've been from the east to the west of North Carolina many, many times. I'm an engineer by training. Spent most of my time working in manufacturing. I have 2 children. Both of those children were homeschooled, went to public school, and went to private school. The most important part about that is I was able to choose at each point what was the best for them. So educational choice is one of my top issues. I also care about cost of living, primarily where taxes and regulations impact the citizens of North Carolina. So the certificate of need, of course, is one big issue. So please vote for me, vote for Libertarians, 2026.
Thank you, Wayne. And our final House candidate is yet another rookie. This rookie is a real rookie. He's possibly the youngest candidate running for North Carolina House. Where's Michael Oakes? Michael Oakes. Michael Oakes has had that experience, so it looks like we may be replicating it. He is younger than any Republican running. He's obviously younger than any Libertarian running. I haven't been able to ascertain for sure if there may be a younger Democrat somewhere. But in any event, Lucas is running in House 40, and he also has a 1v1. Lucas, you want to tell us a little bit about your candidacy?
You're welcome. I always seem to end up with something to do at these events. At the ranked choice voting event, I was doing the webcast. But my name is Lucas Jones. I'm running for House 40, as Brad has said. I've lived here in Raleigh my whole life. I'm 21. The same house all my life, actually. I haven't been able to move out for various reasons. But, I got involved in... Okay. I think I'm good now. So I got involved in 2025 because after becoming a libertarian, and I became a libertarian in the modern way through YouTube videos, I started to admire other states that are more famously libertarian, Florida or New Hampshire, Alaska, if you don't mind the cold. But I listened to a history podcast that discussed the importance of the context, and so I wanted to work to make, rather than just leaving where all my family is here in Raleigh, I wanted to work to make it a more libertarian, more freer place. And so I got involved with canvassing, and I'm now running for House 40 because I was the only one in the district, and I want to give the people a choice. It is an uncontested election, so it would be just the Democrat, if not for me. And I'm going to be discussing issues that would be amenable to, focusing on issues that would be amenable to Republicans, since I'm the de facto conservative, I suppose. Second Amendment rights and deregulation in the form of certificate of need, and all that. How many more minutes do I have? And I think that's about it. Yeah, Lucas. Thank you, sir.
And now our final candidate on the docket tonight, unless one of the federal candidates show up late, Brian Lewis is running for Soil and Water. And I've probably said that before. Certainly other people have said that before. I think this is his fourth run in North Carolina as a candidate. You ran for House a couple of times, and then okay, definitely more than, oh, it's a fourth run, yeah, so second run, yeah. So in 2024, Brian ran for this same office and received 98,000 votes. Over 30% of all the votes that we received in Wake County, and clearly that's 98,000 separate people voting for a Libertarian candidate, because you can't vote for more than once for a for a candidate. So that was about 2/3 of as many votes as he would have needed to win the election. He didn't win, but he was clearly competitive. He got more than the difference between the second place finisher and the third place. So in any event, that is an all-time record for the most number of votes in any county in Wake County in North Carolina by a single Libertarian candidate. So we're hoping that this year, with possibly some additional advantages and maybe a little bit more money, that we can push Brian into a situation where he might be able to win. It's not unheard of for this office to be won by a Libertarian. In 2002, I want to say, Joy Elliott, who later became chair of the Wake County Party, ran for Soil and Water and won election to that office for a couple of years. So, without further ado, Brian, you want to tell us about your candidacy?
Thank you, Brad. Of course, I'm Brian Lewis. And I think the most important part here is each of us have stepped up. We're the committed few. We're sold on the ideals of libertarianism. But I think what really matters is for everybody who is running, for everyone who has stood up, it's because not only do we just live them in our practice, in how we view people, how we conduct transactions, but we stand on the mountaintop and say, we're here, come. I'm running for Soil and Water not because it's just an available seat. I have been a Soil and Water Supervisor in the past in Broward County, Florida, and find it to be an amazing, engaging role. As a teenager, looking at the neighborhood I grew up in, I could see the teams, if you will. And there were a lot of folks who were really stuck in place, who weren't striving for a better future, and they were in one camp of ideology. And I saw all these people who drive nice cars and lived in nice neighborhoods, and they had a different ideology. And I kind of picked a team that I wanted to be a part of, because that's how I decided as a teenager. One of the other things I also saw, though, was that we had an environment that was in crisis. We had needs to be better people on the earth. And so I was an avid environmentalist. And for a period of time, I get to laugh. At one point, I was a committeeman for a different political party, and I would show up in my Prius, and they'd laugh, and they'd say, oh, yeah, there's our environmental wacko. And then I'd go show up at the Sierra Club, where I was the conservation chairperson for the Sierra Club, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, he's our token right-wing nut job. And I never understood the conflict, because there isn't a conflict. It doesn't exist. It's been manufactured. It's been manufactured by the news. It's been manufactured by the other teams who said, no, you got to come play with us. I'm a free market environmentalist. In hunting down, thank you. In hunting down how to live as a free market environmentalist, I have grown and expanded in the tasks that I do, and to the point that I am a farmer. I'd have been here a little bit earlier, but I actually have a baby goat who was born, and she's not doing so well, and so she needs a little bit of extra care and attention. So currently at home in a box with a little heater is a little itty bitty baby goat. If you like little baby goats, I have 5 of them currently. Well, this one has imprinted on me, so I have a little baby goat who thinks I'm mama, and I enjoy producing the food that I can eat. I enjoy being able to share the fruits of doing so, and I enjoy the idea that I live by the values that matter to me as an environmentalist, the values that matter to me as somebody who cares about my neighbor. I care about people. Care about the world I live in. I think I have a responsibility in it. I think every person does. I can't force you to live that responsibility. I don't believe in that. But I can live it as an example. And to be that example, I'll stand up to be counted. To be that example, I will do in my life those very things that I encourage others to do. And as a soil and water supervisor, those very values, as I expanded them in my previous service as an honorable supervisor to a soil and water district, I'll bring those same values to the Wake County Soil and Water Conservation District, where we provide the tools for our farmers to be competitive in the marketplace, where we provide the tools where they're able to bring their products to market. And I'm going to tell you, it was an amazing thing for me to sit back and say I wanted to solve a problem and find that there was legislation standing in the way of being able to solve real problems that we have to deal with, that our farmers face. I don't want to grow houses. I want to grow food. I'm really inspired by that. We should eat local. We should drink local. I'll have conversations with you about all of these nuanced details that are out there. Way too many to engage here. But for that, We are libertarians because we believe in a core set of values. And we may bicker over the nuances and details and the language. Are you this side of it? Are you that side of it? And really, that is not what's important. What's important is that we love one another. We care for one another. And the highest level of support and respect that we could show to each other is that I grant you the right of your own personage. So I ask for your support. And in this campaign season, I'm going to ask for you to share my name out there. And I'm going to ask for your help. We are so close at 98,000 votes. Somehow or another, it became a partisan thing, but I think we can break through that partisan thing and show people that there is a place where the person who actually just cares is the person who should be in the seat. So, again, I ask for your support. Brian Lewis for Soil and Water Conservation District. One final point. As we sit and we discuss ranked choice voting, I'll have you know the Soil and Water Board is pretty close to a ranked choice vote, because when there are multiple open seats, you get to vote for multiple persons. And it is the cumulative numbers that will fill seat 1, seat 2 as they are available. So it's living by that model. So again, your support's greatly appreciated. All of these candidates here are standing up and doing yeoman's work. Support them. If you have that experience, share it with them. I went through the hard part of having to learn how to do this. I've got stories and war stories to tell. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian, and we need to talk about your campaign. Okay, folks, we do have some business to attend to, which we're going to try to get through as quickly as possible. The first order of business is election of an at-large executive committee member. Normally, our elections are in odd-numbered years, and we elected 5 members to the executive committee in 2025, but one of them was not able to continue. That person was replaced by somebody else who also is now not able to continue. So we have an open at-large seat. I'm now ready to open the floor for nominations. Lucas, nominations for at-large? Lucas is recognized. Amanda Innes. Okay, I have spoken with Amanda Innes. She has not been around for a while because she just had a baby. Well, actually a year ago. She's a single mom, and she works out of her house, and so it's been quite an adventure for her. And she is probably somewhat challenged at actually getting to physical meetings, but when I explained to her the situation that we actually needed somebody, and somebody with the perspective of a single mom, in North Carolina would be absolutely great to have on the EC, and that what's required is basically showing up at a virtual meeting, not having to travel anywhere, once a month on a Sunday night. She said she would be willing to give it a try, assuming with the proviso that we had to move our meeting time back 15 minutes because it potentially conflicted with the bedtime for the child. So that's what I know about Amanda Innes. Any other nominations? Motion to close nominations? All in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? It's unanimous. Great. Now let's vote. So all in favor of, you have 2 choices. You can vote for, note is in our bylaws. I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. We could eliminate it. That's something we can consider next time. You can vote for Amanda, or you can vote for none of the above. So I will ask for a show of hands. All those in favor of Amanda Innes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All those in favor of none of the above? Okay, 16, nothing. Moving on. Consideration of plan of organization updates. You have a handout which includes 2 proposed plan of organization changes. I hope that you all have had a chance to look these over. I will just comment that the first change is bringing our plan of organization into congruence with the state party, which changed the wording for the pledge at their last convention to add the word economic to the list of flavors of violence that we don't approve of. So that's what we would be doing here as well. Any questions about that? Concerns, comments? The second item is putting in a fail-safe for the potential for a attempt to take over the party. This is something that's in place for the state party, so it seems like, you know, in solidarity with them and in common prudence, it's nothing that hurts anything. It just requires that anyone aspiring to serve as a delegate at our convention have been a member of the party for 30 days prior. Any questions about item 2? Well, I would entertain a motion to approve both of these changes. Okay, all in favor of approving these 2 changes to our plan of organization? All opposed? Excellent. All right. The last business item is the delegate selection for the 2026 LPNC Convention. Lucas, could you please read out the list of the people that are on, that have indicated or possibly passively been added to the list just because they signed up to be at this convention? Basically, to be a delegate to the LPNC convention from Wake County, you have to be a Wake LP member. That's the only requirement. So all of those you who are here with green tags are eligible to be delegates. Lucas, yeah, you want to give him the mic? Give him the mic, yeah. Lucas is going to read the list out. If you're on the list and you don't plan to go to the LPNC convention, you please speak up and we'll take you off the list.
Bob Deere, Brad Hessel, Brian Biederman, Brian K. Lewis, Courtney Laszacs, David Blackwelder, David Ulmer, D. Watson, Ed George, Guy Meilleur, Hillary Pritzlaff, or wait.
Those are people
sorry,
that
no,
indicated an
scratch,
interest but
not
here.
Guy Meilleur, scratch that. But Hillary Pritzlaff, Jeffrey Nathan, Jonathan Miller, Jonathan Hutchinson, Kathleen Cockrell, Ken Pankowski, Lucas Jones, that's me, Matthew Corden, Matthew Laszacs, Michael Oakes, Patrick Bowersox, Philip Jacobson, Robert Rose, Stephen Swinton, Travis Grew, not Travis Grew, sorry, Wayne Cockrell.
Okay, Stephen Swinton also does not live in Wake. He should not be on the list.
Oh, no. Sorry for the mistakes.
Oh, no worries. So to expedite matters, what I suggest is I would entertain a motion to approve the list as read. If anyone is on the list that isn't going, just see either me or Lucas and we'll take care of removing you. I would also suggest that the motion, question? Yes, thank you. Well, you want to take care of that? That was exactly what I was about to say. So Dee's going to make a motion. Could we have a mic? Hold on, you're getting a mic.
Sorry. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the list as it is, but give the chair the authorization to add people subsequently.
And as a point of clarification, that would be the chair of the delegation, not necessarily the chair of the convention of the party, although it usually works out that way. Okay, all in favor of approving the list as written?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. We're done with our business. Now, a few announcements. First of all, for those of you who are not regulars, please be aware that we meet every Wednesday night about this time, 7 p.m., across the way in the other near the bar, so it's easier to get alcohol. You're welcome to come by. Typically, we get somewhere between 6 to 12 people that show up. It's a very informal thing. We don't have an agenda. We don't necessarily talk about politics, although politics does come up from time to time. You're certainly welcome. Interesting conversations abound. Secondly, referring to the QR code on your list, there is the second one, the one that's on the right-hand side of the page on the top, Hurricanes versus Blackhawks. We have an event coming up next Thursday, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. A group of us are going to see a Hurricanes game. Now, for those of you who are not big ice hockey fans, the Hurricanes are in the National Hockey League, and they are having a very, very good season. They are #1 in their division. I believe it's a Metropolitan Division, if memory serves. The Blackhawks, the Chicago Blackhawks, are one of the 6 original members of the founding members of the National Hockey League. So they're always a fun team to watch. So we'll be sitting together as a group between the second and third periods. Our name will be up in lights, and we can all cheer. It should be a lot of fun. If you're interested, go to that QR code and sign up. It's another form like the one you signed up for the convention. The tickets are $62 a piece. They're $80 tickets, so we're getting them at a considerable discount. And I'll get in touch with you for electronically giving you your ticket and arranging for you to pay. Okay, now I would like to revisit one last time the first QR code on this sheet of paper, the CAP-F. The guy that founded the concept of having the Candidate Accelerator program, the entire program, not just the fundraising part of it, is David Ulmer. So I'm going to ask David to come up and say a few words about it.
Hey, I'm going to use this one. So I just wanted to kind of frame that also up in more practical terms. First, if you are running for office, thank you. I appreciate that your name will be on the ballot representing the Libertarian Party. We already have enough money, especially for NCGA candidates, to do all the basics, the headshot, the website, business cards, what have you. So regardless of your current status, we can take care of that. If you are a candidate, you have a couple months here to actually consider what you're doing, in the sense that if in 2 or 3 months you would like to put effort into this, you should let us know, because then we will gather more money for the actual signs, the door hangers. The wake, and I think I speak for the EC, we don't want to print a bunch of cards out and flyers and everything else, and then you're not willing in September to go knock on doors on weekends or hand them out or work at the sites. If you're not willing to take a few days off in October to work voter lines, then just make that decision in the next 2 or 3 months. It's also too late on October 5th to say, as you see everything in the news, I want to be active now. Ship sailed. We can't help you. We can't get anything to you on time. So there is a adulting maturity part of this. We just need to think. There's no pressure, right or wrong, but over the next 2 or 3 months, decide how active you want to be if you're going to be a candidate. As somebody has sunk a significant amount of money and time and effort into this, I have awesome grandkids. They're really much cuter than anybody else in this room. And so I can use 5 days off to spend with them. But instead, I devote it to taking time off to support y'all on voter lines. That drives my wife, doesn't make her happy. So I lose in all kinds of directions on a personal level. And all of your volunteers make that sacrifice. So you just, again, we want to do it and we want to help. But if you're going to run and be active, meaning show up to events, represent us on boards and panels that are, speaker discussions, let us know. If you are willing to knock on some doors in September and you want help, let us know. Some people that want to help you aren't good with people, but they can put out yard signs, but we have to know that you're going to put in the effort for early voting and work voter lines and really try. So as you consider running for office, just keep all that in mind with the timeline. People are going to sign up to help you as volunteers, and there's nothing more deflating from a volunteer perspective to suddenly see your candidate wilt in early October. Because some of you can have an actual impact in your race. So that's why the Candidate Accelerator program needs money. That's why we do it, because volunteers want to help you be successful as possible and get the message out. The final thing I'll say in closing, having done this for a while, principles and political ideas and all that, remember, people are people. Everybody has people that they listen to. I've liked Jonathan Haidt for a long time. Scott Galloway, I don't agree with his politics, but his diagnosis of what's wrong with young men in America today and the challenges they face, I think is very important. Jordan Peterson has had some insights that are worth listening to. This is also part of you growing as a person by doing this. Sometimes listening is also helpful as far as just not going out and explaining to people why they're wrong. It doesn't work in marriage. It doesn't work in the office. It doesn't work in any part of life where you just go around explaining to people why they're wrong. It just doesn't work. So you have to listen. Travis is the reason violence still exists in the world. So that said, I appreciate your time. Thank you again for running. Please let us know if you want the help. I mean, just 2 or 3 months. If you say, hey, Dave, I'm all in. I want to do this. Who can we get? Where can I start? Let us know. We want to help. Thank you.
Y'all can appreciate why the only way I agreed to come to be chair of the party was if David would come out of retirement and be on the EC with me. So, all right, final thing, a final announcement. If you enjoyed this convention, there's an even better one. It's the Libertarian Party of North Carolina's state convention, and it's going to be, I want to say, the end of March. I don't have the date here. However, it's easy for you to look up the date because the final QR code on your handout, the one on the bottom, is for the LPNC Convention. So Joe Jorgensen is going to be speaking there. Christine Villaverde is going to be speaking there. Dan Eichenbaum, Cara Schultz of Who's Driving fame, she's a fantastic candidate trainer, is going to be there. It's going to be at Lake Lure in Rutherford County. If you've never been to Lake Lure, question? Oh, okay, I was right. Okay, cool. Lake Lure is a wonderful place. It's slightly less wonderful now because they had the flood, but happily the hotel was not at all affected. We actually were there in 2017. That is to say, the state party was there in 2017. Question by Travis?
It is also the Libertarian Party's 50-year anniversary as a party.
I was getting to that.
So
Thank you, Travis.
Yep.
Yes, and also I should mention that one other speaker that's going to be there is our own David Ulmer, who's going to be explaining to some of the other county heads how they can replicate some of the stuff we've done here in Wake County. So anyway, the state has offered anyone who signs up between now and midnight Friday from this convention will get a $10 coupon for the silent auction, which is an incredibly cool thing that they do at the basically there's all these wonderful things that you can bid on during the course of the convention, and then whoever bids the highest gets it at the end of the convention. And also they are extending the early bird discount, which was supposed to end. They're going to extend that also to midnight Friday. So go to that QR code, sign up for the convention. That's definitely important to do if you're planning to be a delegate anyway. So it makes sense to do that now rather than wait until after Friday when you'd have to pay more. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.